The rise of BRICS? The end of the dollar? The dollar has ruled for 80 years. Now, 5 nations are building something different. Something the West doesn't want you to see. And when it launches, everything changes. The pattern is always the same. Every empire believes its currency will last forever. Rome thought so. The denarius was eternal, until it wasn't. Britain thought. The pound sterling ruled the waves, until 1944. Now, America thinks so. But history doesn't repeat. It rhymes. And right now, the rhyme scheme is getting dangerously familiar. Picture this. You wake up tomorrow. Your dollars are worth 30% less than yesterday. Gas is $12 a gallon. Bread is $8 a loaf. Your savings? Evaporated. Not because of a crash, not because of inflation, but because the world stopped accepting dollars. Impossible? Ask Britain in 1945. The BRICS nations Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa aren't just an acronym anymore. They represent 46% of the global population, over $28 trillion in combined GDP. And they're tired of playing by Washington's rules. They're building an alternative. Quietly, methodically. And the dollar is in their crosshairs. The Bretton Woods illusion. Let's go back. July 1944. Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. World War II is still raging. But 44 nations gathered to redesign the global financial system. The British Empire is broke. France is occupied. Germany is ash. Japan is burning. Only one nation stands strong. The United States. America holds 60% of the world's gold reserves. Its factories are intact. Its homeland untouched. So the deal is struck. The dollar becomes the world's reserve currency. Every other currency pegs to the dollar. The dollar pegs to gold at $35 per ounce. Instant hegemony for nearly 3 decades. This system holds. The dollar is as good as gold. But then comes Vietnam. The Great Society, guns and butter. America prints more dollars than it has gold to back. France notice. In 1965, Charles de Gaulle starts converting dollars to gold. Other nations follow. By 1971, Fort Knox is hemorrhaging gold. On August 10, 1971, President Nixon closes the gold window. The dollar is no longer backed by anything. Just faith. Just trust. Just the promise that America will remain dominant forever. Nobody saw it coming, but the dollar didn't collapse. Instead, it got stronger. Why? Because in 1973, Henry Kissinger cut a deal with Saudi Arabia. The petrodollar was born. The petrodollar. The greatest heist in history. Here's how it worked. Saudi Arabia agrees to sell oil only in US dollars. In return, America protects the kingdom militarily. Other OPEC nations follow suit. Suddenly, every country on earth needs dollars. Not because they want them, because they need to buy oil. Instant demand. Permanent demand. The dollar isn't backed by gold anymore. It's backed by oil, and oil is backed by the U.S. Navy. This is the invisible foundation of American power. When you buy gas in Colombia, pay for electricity in Kenya, or heat your home in Poland, you're using dollars, even if you never see one. The U.S. can print trillions, export inflation, finance endless wars, run historic deficits, and the world absorbs it. Because they have no choice. But empires always overreach. And in 2022, America made a catastrophic mistake. The sanctions that broke the spell. February 24, 2022. Russia invades Ukraine. The West responds with the most aggressive sanctions in modern history. Russian banks are cut off from SWIFT, the global payment messaging system. Over $300 billion in Russian foreign reserves are frozen. Seized. Weaponized. The message is clear. If you cross Washington, your money isn't yours. But here's the problem. Every emerging nation is watching. China sis italiano, India sis italiano, Brazil sis italiano. Saudi Arabia sees it, and they realize the dollar isn't just money. It's a leash. For decades, holding dollar reserves seemed safe, logical, neutral. But now it's a political weapon. If the US can freeze Russia's reserves, it can freeze anyone's reserves. So what do you do if you're China, India, Brazil? You start looking for alternatives. And that's exactly what's happening. The BRICS alternative. De-dollarization begins. The BRICS aren't moving fast. They're moving smart. In 2023, the bloc expanded. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE were invited to join. Now, BRICS Plus represents over 3.5 billion people, more than 36% of global GDP, over 45% of global oil production. This isn't a fringe movement anymore. This is the new center of gravity, and they're building infrastructure to bypass the dollar entirely. Step 1. Bilateral trade in local currencies. China and Brazil now trade directly in yuan and reshape. No dollars needed. India buys Russian oil in rupees. Russia buys Indian goods in rubles. Saudi Arabia is now open to selling oil to China in yuan. The petrodollar's first crack. Step 2. The new development bank headquartered in Shanghai. The BRICS Bank funds infrastructure projects across the global south in local currencies, not dollars. It's already dispersed over $33 billion in loans. Step 3. A BRICS currency rumors swirl. Leaks emerge. A gold-backed currency or a basket currency tied to commodities: oil, rare earths, wheat. No official launch yet. But the blueprints are there. And if it happens, the dollar's monopoly ends. What happens when the dollar loses reserve status? Imagine this scenario. It's 2027. BRICS officially launches a commodity-backed currency unit. It's accepted for oil, rare earth minerals, grain, lithium. Within 18 months, 40% of global trade shifts to the unit. The dollar is still used, but it's no longer necessary. Countries start dumping their treasury holdings. Demand for dollars collapses. The Federal Reserve is trapped. If they raise rates to defend the dollar, the U.S. economy implodes. Debt service costs explode. If they don't, inflation spirals. Imported goods skyrocket in price. Your $100 grocery bill becomes $200. Then $350. Gas hits $15 a gallon. The middle class is wiped out in 24 months. This isn't speculation. This is what happened to Britain after World War II. In 1945, the pound was still a global reserve currency. By 1950, it was a regional currency. By 1967, it was devalued into irrelevance. The transition didn't take generations, it took years, and it destroyed British living standards for a generation. The endgame: a multipolar financial world. The BRICS aren't trying to replace American dominance with Chinese dominance. They're building a multipolar world, where no single nation holds the financial nuclear codes, where trade happens in multiple currencies, where no one can be sanctioned out of existence. It's not about ideology. It's about survival. And the West is waking up too late. The European Union is quietly discussing a digital euro to reduce dollar dependence. Even Japan, America's closest ally in Asia, is exploring yuan-denominated trade with China. The cracks are everywhere. Here's the timeline nobody's talking about. 2025 to 2026. BRICS currency pilot programs launch in select regions. 2027 to 2028. Major oil producers begin accepting BRICS currency alongside dollars. 2029-2030. Dollar share of global reserves falls below 50% for the first time since 1945. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And right now, it's rhyming with 1944. The dark irony, the United States built a system that's now being dismantled. It taught the world how to use sanctions as weapons. It showed everyone how to freeze assets, destroy currencies, and collapse economies remotely. And now, that same playbook is being used against it. Not with missiles, not with tanks, with currency swaps, trade agreements, commodity deals. The fall of an empire doesn't always look like fire and blood. Sometimes it looks like a spreadsheet. The question no one wants to ask: what happens to the average American when the dollar is no longer king? What happens when the grocery bill doubles because imports cost twice as much? What happens when the national debt, $36 trillion in climbing, can't be financed anymore because no one wants treasuries? What happens when the federal government can't pay Social Security, Medicare, or military salaries? This isn't fear-mongering. This is the math. And the math doesn't care about American exceptionalism. The final warning: the BRICS aren't your enemy. They're not trying to destroy you. They're just opting out of a system that no longer serves them. But when 46% of the world's population opts out, the 4% that built the system will feel it. The rise of BRICS isn't the end of the dollar, but it might be the beginning of the end. And the worst part, most people won't see it coming. They'll wake up one day, check the prices, and wonder what happened. By then, it'll be too late. The empire always falls. The only question is, are you ready for what comes next?